What's up guys, it's Lips and Drips here. Alright, so today's episode we got a really exciting one for you. The one you guys have all been waiting for. I've also been waiting for it. So as you can see, we have the panel wagon on the dyno at Post Haste Performance here. So over the last little while we've been kind of fine tuning and getting all the mechanical parts all put together. So if you guys are new to the channel, I'm going to go over the setup of the engine. I've said this in the last couple of videos, but basically it's a stock B230 FT bottom end. So it's from a 1994, it's got oil piston squirters, or piston oil squirters, and so it's got a 531 head imported from Europe, and this is actually the head that I ran on my NA car, Miss Huff. If you guys are new to the channel, go check that out. Lots of videos about that car. So this head is a 531 automotive head. So if you guys don't know a 531, it's just a slightly better flowing version of the 8-valve head. This one's ported out, and it's got a crazy camshaft in it. So it's like 302 degrees of duration, about 13 millimeters of lift. So the head is shaved 2 millimeters, and that gave it a lot higher compression. So on my NA car it was about 11:1 compression, maybe a little bit more actually. So this being a turbo block and not an NA block like my last car is about 1 point lower in compression. So running this thing on pump gas, it's got a HE341 whole set turbo. We ported out the wastegate, the internal wastegate. So, you know, we opened up the hole as much as we could, and while it's still being able to maintain the factory flapper on the wastegate. So what else we got going on here? It's got an aftermarket intercooler. It's being tuned on a Emu Black standalone, full standalone. So we got Dan, he's the master at the Emu Black and all other standalones really. The guy's just kind of a wizard. So he's got it on the dyno here, and he's actually already made some pulls. So we've been messing with a few things. So Mikey just got here with his camera. Earlier on in the day we were dealing with a boost issue. We could not get the boost to go lower than 20 pounds, and the culprit was this eBay crappy actuator. So we had a better actuator. Shout out to my guy Giovanni. So he actually sent me a a good actuator from all the way from Florida. So thanks to Giovanni for that. That was really nice of him. So we got that on the car now, and now it's holding 20 PSI of boost steady, which is awesome. So Dan's actually been able to do a little bit of tuning on it. He's, we've taken on a few runs now. So fuel pumps, we got the stock fuel pumps in it, and right now they're actually not a limitation yet. We have 630cc injectors, and we're running the stock 3-bar fuel pressure regulator. So this motor has stock rods in it. That is also a limitation. Being about 10:1 compression ratio on pump gas, this thing so far, as you guys will show you on the graphs here, it is very prone to knock. So we can't run any timing in it. Dan really wants me to do E85. This motor would be awesome on E85. We'd probably make in the 400 horsepower range. But knock is a huge limitation right now, so that's what we're kind of dealing with. We have made some decent pulls, and with running like no timing in it, we got about the turbo doesn't actually want to run less than 20 pounds of boost. So this actuator is opening at 10, but the turbo's not really going less than 20. There's no way to make it go less. So if we check over here, here's kind of the graphs that we've been working with so far. He hasn't really fine-tuned it yet, but it's got a couple good pulls. So I'm actually really happy because I've always wanted a 300 horsepower. That was actually kind of the goal of this motor, is 300 wheel horsepower. And on our best run, we actually just made that. So 301 horsepower to the wheels. For all you M46 haters, my M46 is still holding in here. I don't know, just watch. This M46 is gonna last really long, and you guys are gonna be like confused how it happens. And the reason is because actually instead of gear oil, I used holy water. So it's kind of, you know, it's just got a thing going for it now. Anyway, so back to this graph. Really cool. If you guys remember the Miss Huff tuning videos, that motor actually had a really similar power band. This being the same head and the same cam setup, it's gonna have a really similar curve, just way more power on top because it has a bunch of boost into it. So as you can see, check this out, Mikey. So power, you know, as a boost starts ramping up, and we're not really getting full boost at 20 PSI until about the 4,500 range. As you can see, that's when the peak torque starts to creep up. Not a very torquey motor, and that's actually kind of good because as you guys know, I don't have a good transmission in here, and what kills the M46s is torque. So we're at about 260 foot-pounds, 257, and that's happening right around the 5,000 RPM range. So once that hits, this motor is actually pulling really nicely out. It's able to maintain, as you can see, power's not really dropped off quite yet, and we're already into the mid 7,000 range. So I told Dan he can set the rev limiter at 8,000. That's where I'm comfortable at. Looking on the forums, that's what a lot of people say is kind of the limitation of RPM on these blocks. But yeah, so I'm excited. Dan's gonna come back in here. We actually just dealt with a injector O-ring leak, so I put better O-rings in it. I think it's gonna be good now. As you can see, air fuel is keeping it around the 11 mark. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Fuel pressure on the stock fuel pumps has not dropped off, so that means they're able to keep up with the demand that we're asking of them. That's really good. Yeah, guys, I'm stoked. So we'll get Dan on back in here in a little bit here, and we'll do some more pulls, and hopefully this thing can, we can kind of wrap it up, make a nice solid tune, no detonation. Right now, we don't really have any detonation or knock, which is good. Being on pump gas, we're really limited. But as I said, on E85, this motor would make, we'd be able to run way more timing, way more boost. It would make literally 400 wheel plus probably. So anyways, we're gonna keep going with it and see where we get.
Justin, with subscribers, how long do you think these Volvo
Connecting rods
will last?
I don't know, not very long, I don't think. Alright guys, so she is on the dyno now. As you can hear, the wagon has the same kind of like lumpy idle that Miss Huff had. A little bit less compression, but and obviously a different header, and it's going through a turbo now, but it's still got that clumpy, lumpy idle, which is good because I was hoping that wouldn't go away. So yeah, let's see what the wagon can do. I think we're gonna be kind of like 300 horsepower. That's kind of what we're gonna be working with here. So scary. I'm kind of nervous. I don't want my motor to blow up. I won't be that sad if it does, but I'd prefer not to have to source another squirter block. Whatever. You like that? 310, boys. 310? 310. So that run, we just made 315 wheel horsepower and 260 foot-pounds of torque. So it looks like we're actually almost pretty close to maxing out the injectors. Luckily the stock fuel pump's still holding in. So these are 630cc injectors. I didn't think they would max out, but the calculations are generally around like 300 to 350 wheel horsepower for these on a 4-cylinder. So I don't know, I'm really happy. This thing is gonna move. stuff.
Flame shooting monster, eh?
Yeah. Wow. Dude, ripped pretty good. Alright guys, so that is pretty much a wrap up of the tuning side of things. So we got our graphs here. We're gonna go over kind of what happened and, you know, maybe what we can improve on next time, that kind of thing. So we actually have a couple graphs to compare to my previous Volvos that I tuned at this dyno shop. Dan tunes all my Volvos. So if you guys have any projects you need tuned, you know, check out Post Haste Performance on Google, check him out on Facebook and Instagram. You know, Dan's really skilled and knowledgeable at what he does, and is an awesome shop. I wouldn't really go to anybody else at this point. So anyways, what we got here, so I'm super happy. This thing made 317 wheel horsepower at 7,400 RPM. So peak power is way up there. This motor is gonna pull super hard up top. I'm really happy with that. It did not make a lot of torque actually, as opposed to how much horsepower it made. So 247 foot-pounds was the max. Actually, I think if we moved it, it was about 250 was the max. So definitely this cam and head setup is way different than my previous setup. So over here, we actually have Goldie. So if you guys remember, Goldie was a stock 530 head. It had stock compression ratio. It had like a T3, T4 Garrett on it when we were running a pile of boost. And the boost on that car was spiking to 25 and then leveling at 20. So actually, if we look here, it's insane to look at the difference of these two graphs. So Goldie was all torque. It was just, if you look at this graph, it's almost like a diesel as far as torque goes. So blue is torque and red is horsepower. And also this other graph over here, we got mishuff, so we're gonna compare it to that after. So Goldie actually made like 237 wheel horsepower and 330 foot-pounds of torque. So it's literally the opposite of what the panel wagon's making. So panel wagon makes, you know, in the 300 horsepower, and what's up? So the panel wagon makes 300-ish, you know, horsepower, and Goldie was making 300-ish foot-pounds of torque, and then panel wagon's making 247 foot-pounds of torque, and Goldie was making like 237 horsepower. So these graphs are like flipped around. Panel wagon's definitely gonna pull harder. It's gonna feel like a more lively engine. Goldie had crazy torque, and that's why I snapped M46s like no one's business in that car. As soon as you pinned it in third gear, it would spike to 26 pounds, make over 300 foot-pounds, and it would just roast the gear. So just maybe we might actually be able to have the tranny stay intact. 250 wheel torque is actually kind of the the ragged edge of the M46's third gear, so it may hold, it may not, depending on how hard I drive it. So yeah, Goldie was interesting, but it, you know, made a ton of torque, but it wasn't a super lively revving out motor. See, as it started to fall off, even after 5,000 RPM, the power started to fall off pretty bad, and after 6,000, it wasn't making much. So Panel Wagon is way better in that sense. We actually could have revved this thing all the way to 8, and it probably still would have made more power up there. See, the graph kind of tapers off, and it pretty much would have stayed flat, I think, if we revved it up to 8. I was like, holy, that's a lot of RPM, so we ended up cutting it at 7,800 RPM for our soft rev limiter. So cool thing, we'll compare this to Miss Huff. So this is the Miss Huff graph. Obviously Miss Huff was NA, so it doesn't have a turbo. It's not gonna make near as much power, but it's just interesting because Miss Huff was this exact same head setup, just with a little bit more compression, about 1 point more. So you can see kind of where the power starts to get good, is about the same. You know, it pulls up in the same RPM range. Miss Huff was nice around the 7,000, 6,500 range. Panel Wagon's even farther because you have boost being able to just stuff air in there. So it was actually able to carry the RPMs out and maintain power up there even better. So 7,800, this motor is gonna scream, guys. I'm super excited to film the video when we take this for a ride. It is gonna be gnarly. I've never had a Volvo making this much power, so I'm pumped. And the idle sounds wicked. It sounds like Miss Huff did, coming out that 3-inch side pipe, no muffler. The only muffler is a turbine wheel in the turbo. So yeah, guys, Dan did a great job tuning it. Luckily, he allowed my motor to stay intact with stock rods, 13mm rods on the 94 stock bottom end B230 FT. They held in. People say the limitation of them is anywhere from 300 to 400 horsepower, so seems about right. RPM is definitely hard on rods as well, so 7,800, that's what we got, 317 wheel horsepower. So yeah, guys, I'm pumped. I'm really excited to take this thing for a rip. So we're gonna do that on another video, like I said, take it out in the daytime. Funny actually thing that Dan mentioned to me is that hitting limiter in 4th gear, so M46 is a 4-speed, we are getting 144 miles an hour of wheel speed. So I could bring this thing up to 144 miles an hour. Let me know in the comments if you wanna see a video of me bringing this up to 144 miles an hour on the street somewhere. I mean, on the track in Mexico somewhere. Yeah, so anyways, guys, that was basically a wrap up of today's video. Yeah, good old cheap whole set turbo did pretty good on this red block. So if we wanted to make a better, more optimal setup, we would go less compression and a little bit less cam. So we were pretty knock limited. Dan did not have any timing in this thing. It was like up here, I think it was like 4 or 5 degrees before top dead center. In this range, it was like 3 or 4, which is really low. This motor with E85 would make a ton more power. Like we're talking 400 wheel horsepower. I need bigger injectors and a better fuel pump if I want to do that, but that is going to be in the future where we'll be doing that. So I got to save up money, guys. If you want to support the channel, head over to the Teespring store. The link to our store is in the description of this video. Cop some Drifts and Lifts merchandise. And make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and if you really want to support the channel, watch the full ad because YouTube does not like us and they don't treat us nicely compared to some other channels. Anyways, guys, so we're gonna let you go there. Like and subscribe for I don't know. Like and subscribe for Volvo graphs. Peace out.